Hello, can you guys hear me now? Okay. All right, we are good. We are here. Hello, everyone. Glad you all could make it. How is everyone doing? Yes, please like the stream if you would like to. It apparently helps people find the streams, I guess. We have a new lighting fixture in the background. Ooh, look at that. Fun rainbow stuff. I have a hair like right there. It's really bothering me. Okay, oh, there we go. Got it. We're good. All right, thank you. Good, okay, good. So on Monday, there was a thunderstorm, and it happened right in the middle when I was streaming on Monday, and I lost power, and it turned everything off, and then it came right back on again, but a couple of things weren't really working right away. Like my computer didn't want to turn on, and then my microphone turned on, and then it turned back off again. And it turns out I thought that the microphone had gotten fried by the storm. Luckily, it was just the USB cable, but unplugging everything, plugging it back in, new cables. Like everything has to be resynced on all the software. So sometimes it doesn't recognize that I have the same microphone plugged in with a different USB. So we are figuring it out, but it seems to be working pretty well. Yes, happy Friday. Glad you could make it. Happy Friday indeed. Wonderful weather here, finally through the heat wave here, it seems like. And for once, I am not burning in my office, which normally this time of year, it's like 80 degrees in here, but not today. Thank you so much to the early crew for being here. Thank you so much to Elias and Twixie and Phil's Violet and Lexi and everyone at Paleo Kitty and your friend Bunbury and Catherine Concept and everyone. Thank you for hanging out and for being here on this Friday. So, with that being said, and knowing that the microphone is working and everyone can hear me, just some real quick things before we get into the stream. One, I guess 0 point actually, I do not currently have the pet camera on because Bandit is currently outside, and when she comes inside, comes upstairs, I'll get the camera turned on. It is working, so luckily that did not get damaged in the storm surge. But just really quickly, though this is an interactive Q&A, although actually now that I'm starting to see this, I think I just heard my dog. So, 1 second. There is my girl. Hello, baby. Glad you could make it. We know the routine. We know what Friday nights are all about. We're like, this is the time when we go in the room, and then I lay down, and I'm super cute, and then everyone wants to say hello to me. Hello. Would you say hello to everyone? Ta-da! I know. We ate some cat food earlier, didn't we? We did. We ate some cat food. Naughty. Alright, here we go. Alright, doggo retrieved. She knows the routine. She knows what's up. Alright, so as I was saying, this is an interactive Q&A live stream, so we talk about whatever you want to talk about. That could be kink stuff, BDSM stuff, polyamory, dating advice, relationship advice. Not really politics, medical advice. I'm not qualified to talk about those things, but if there's something like silly happening on social media, or you want my opinion about some discourse that's been going around, or there's some YouTube drama happening, I'm happy to talk about all of that too. Like, it doesn't just have to be like super serious relationship problem stuff. It can also just be like, hey, so what do you think about iDubbbz apologizing to Tana Mojo? I think that's kind of been the current thing people are talking about, but it's whatever you guys want it to be. I just give some ideas in the live stream title to get us started. It can be whatever you all want under the general umbrella, and then I do answer questions in the order they are received in the chat. So always ask your questions early. If you come prepared with a question, you know what you want to ask it early, because I definitely cannot guarantee that I can get to everything or even most things that people ask about in the chat. If you want to make sure I answer your question. You can use a super chat, or you can also go to Streamlabs down below, does basically the same thing. With super chats on YouTube, YouTube does take, I believe, 30% of all super chats. So you're basically giving Google free money if you use a super chat, whereas Streamlabs down below, all of it ends up going to me, which, you know, I mean, like, we love YouTube, but does YouTube as a company owned by Google really need my money? Probably not, or your money for that matter. Oh, okay, so right away, thank you, David. We have a donation from David, and it says, I am a crossdresser, and there we go. I'm a crossdresser interested in starting collar play. Any ideas on how to get started for a crossdresser? Okay, so when you say collar play, I'm assuming what you mean is that you want to do a scene where you're doing bondage and a collar is involved, but not necessarily power exchange. Like, you want to do some more light kink stuff possibly, but you want to mostly focus on the cross-dressing with, like, having a collar involved at some point. So I will keep that in mind. I'm like 90% done with my spiel, and then I will get into answering this one. So talked about super chats. Also, really important, 18 plus only. So if you're not 18, please don't be here. I love all of our younger, newer kinksters and people discovering who they are and their sexualities, orientations, and differences. That's all really wonderful and great, but it's just not really a good idea to mix people that are minors and talking about kink and sex advice as somebody that is not a professional, not working in any sort of professional or clinical capacity. So please, if you're not 18, please don't be here. You can always come back when you're 18. We always have, like, every year we get a handful of people that are like, it's my 18th birthday, I can finally watch the live stream, and then they come hang out, and it's great. But yeah, just that, and then read the rules. Also down below, I have tons of links to resources for other videos and things I recommend, like books and movies and just general good stuff you might want to know. And I'm probably going to be updating that soon because it's been a while since I've looked over it, and what counts as an FAQ is always changing. So let's get back to David's question, which is getting started with collar play as somebody who enjoys cross-dressing. Okay, first of all, I want to validate that cross-dressing is a super common kink that a lot of people are into, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything about your orientation or your sexuality or anything. Cross-dressing is something that a lot of people are into and enjoy, and that's great, and I'm glad that you know that about yourself. As far as getting started with playing with a collar and you want to incorporate that possibly with cross-dressing, I think it depends on, okay, you don't have a dom or master. Thank you. Okay, so that was going to be one of my things. And like for follow-up, I will keep an eye out for your comments. If you want to highlight with a super chat, you can, or I will just keep an eye out for it in the chat because that's not going super fast at the minute, so I can do that pretty easily. But it depends on I think in my mind, if you're going more in like a frilly, sissy, like very high femme type of cross-dressing, like there's all kinds of like super fluffy frilly collars you can get on Etsy that are really great. I think actually there's probably somebody in the chat right now who can speak to how to purchase one of those. They're a really good option. But really, I think if what you want to do is get just started playing on your own, like the exact color or how it looks maybe doesn't really matter so much. Like it might a little bit. Like get something that feels good to you. If you're on a budget, you can definitely get something from a pet store, but please be a normal human being in the pet store. Just act natural. You can measure your own neck ahead of time and go into the store looking for something that's that size without making it known that you're looking for something for yourself. And that is how I recommend doing it, just to avoid any awkward conversations or making anyone else that has to help you because they work there not feel awkward. So you can get just a nice collar just to try things out. And Zidane says, thank you for helping me last week about being a new mommy dom. We are long distance and I am having some difficulty figuring out rules for them and other things we can do for their fun. Okay, I love that. I have so many ideas for you, so stick around. On the collar question, I recommend just getting a super simple collar and wearing it on your own. You don't have to have a dom or a master to wear a collar. You don't have to be in an official power exchange relationship. I know some people that think that in order to properly wear a collar, you must have a dom, and if you wear one and you don't already have a dom, you're a lying liar who lies, and you're bad. And I don't believe in that. I don't think that that's true. I think if you just want to wear a collar because it feels nice or is practical, or because you're a pet player, or you want to do role play with it, or use it for a practical tool in a scene, like, go for all of that. I think you can totally just wear one on your own at home. And I think trying one on at home, maybe if you have a leash or you could just tug on it yourself, having that feeling and knowing what that feels like to you before you invite somebody else into playing with that with you can actually be really helpful. So you can separate out, okay, which parts of it do I like because I like it on its own as its own thing, and what do I like because I'm doing it with this particular person and the energy that exists between us and the way that we're playing. So I definitely, you can do collar stuff solo, you can do it with a partner if you want to. And as far as like, what was it, getting into it as like a cross-dresser specifically, I mean, they make so many different, like, very girly styles of collars at this point. I know people that have ones that are just like, they got hearts on them, they're bejeweled, they're pink. You can even get something that's like maybe more neutral, like a black collar, and then you can have like a custom printed tag on it that says like princess or girl or like whatever. Like, if you're more into the sort of the femme side, like the forced femme kind of side of cross-dressing, you can reinforce it that way, where you have this tag where it's not super obvious that it's very feminine, but you know, and you can read it to yourself, and it's like, ooh, I'm being labeled, and like, I am this thing because I'm wearing this collar. That's like who I am when I'm wearing this collar. And yeah, I guess in terms of like maybe risks, I want to say really quickly, if you're going to be playing with this on your own and you want to get started with it, is if you do happen to go to a pet store, do not get a choke chain, do not get anything that's like a martingale style collar where it's meant to like tighten down around the throat. That can be really dangerous. It can be fun to play with tools like that in a relationship with somebody else, where like if you get hurt or something gets stuck, like they can help you out. It is still risky, but I don't recommend playing with that just like solo, because it is a higher risk thing and they can be dangerous and uncomfortable, and they are not meant to go around human throats, which are much more delicate and have much softer skin on them. Yeah, and the Kitten Collection I love. They're one of my favorite brands, just like for pet play stuff, period. They have lots of great options for like girly stuff, or more like, they have vegan options, they have ears, they got all sorts of cute stuff. They also make vegan floggers now, in collaboration, I believe, with another brand. Oh, I can't remember who it is they're working with. So they have lots of cute stuff. It is very affordable. I've actually been meaning, I literally only currently own like one collar, and I've been meaning to get more, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet, because I love their biothane, which is their vegan option, is very long lasting, very sturdy. And even just currently on their front page right now, they've got some really cute like pink and white stuff that would be really cute. And they also have like ribbon collars, which are like old school. Like, it was popular like 5 years ago, 6-7 years ago now. Popular style of collars for kittens, and for I see a fair amount of people still using them for like maid role play stuff and things like that, but they're not as ubiquitous as they once were. But I'll pop a link in the chat in case you guys want to look at that, because they are like my go-to customizable recommendation for stuff, and they make really good things. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Vincent, for the super chat. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. I really appreciate that. Look at that. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you. That's very sweet. The description for it is a pair character riding a firework rocket disappearing away before bursting in the sky. That is a wild description, YouTube, but I appreciate that they are including that. Okay, so that's great. Love the Kitten Collection. Great Etsy shop. Very affordable, I feel like. You can get everything custom sized, so if you're worried about like, I have a really big neck or a really small neck or a muscular neck or something, they can have options that work for you. And just to get that out there, I believe they also have nickel-free options as well, if that's a concern. If you have metal or nickel sensitivity, there's something else they can work with. So anyways, love them. They're making collars for a long time. Everyone I know that owns something from them loves it and uses it constantly. Yeah, no point in wearing it if it's just because of tradition. Bellator leather, great stuff. Not cheap Etsy bondage gear though. Yeah, I mean, like Etsy is hard. The reason why I recommend specific shops is because Etsy is very hard to browse on now. Like it used to be 6, 7 years ago. You could go on Etsy, you could search for like BDSM collar, and you could find stuff that was made by actual people, where you lived, and it was a real person operating a store, hand making stuff that they loved because they were part of the community. And now, and I don't know what changed. I don't know if it's like, I know this happens with other Etsy stuff too. That's not just kink stuff. Like it happens with body products and t-shirts and candles and seemingly every other kind of thing you could buy on Etsy. But over the last couple of years, I would say, especially the last 3 years, especially, there's been a huge influx in storefronts that are based out of some random place in Eastern Europe where it is drop ship stuff from China that's not handmade by anybody, and it's really, really cheap. It's knockoff designs from people that actually make good quality gear, and it's just like, if you don't know what you're looking for because you haven't been around in the scene for long enough to like recognize certain things, it can be easy to get suckered into thinking something's like a really good deal and it looks handmade. But there are so many places that steal photos, steal designs. It looks one way in a photo, but in real life it totally looks different, and they buy reviews and it's like a whole mess. So got to be careful, do your shopping wisely. And again, if you go to my FAQ, I do have many shop recommendations and links to places to get everything from collars to floggers to wax play candles to I don't even know what, books, like everything, anything you could want. Even like kind of esoteric stuff like blood play supplies and website recommendations for. So like if you want something kink related, I have many shops to provide for you. Oh, thank you so much. Options fun and well, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think that's that question answered. Let's get back to the previous question from Zidane. Thank you so much again. So we'll just read it again real quick. Thank you for helping me last week about being a new mommy dom. Once again, you're so welcome. We are long distance and I'm having some difficulty figuring out rules for them and other things we can do to further our fun. So first of all, love the mentality of I want to do this to further our fun, because I think that's the main thing you should be doing with kink. And I say this with a big old like side note. You see the footnote on page 10 about like what fun means in kink, because sometimes what is fun for you is not like directly fun, or the fun is when you're in pain. So like fun, know that we're using fun in a very broad sense here, but keeping your mind on like we want to do stuff that feels fun for us, it's fulfilling, we like it, and not just what we think we should be doing because of the type of relationship that we have. And that means that because I'm this thing and you're this thing, we have to have a rule where you call me this and then you send me these pictures and blah, blah, blah. Now, I think what helps figuring out what rules could work for you is like I could give you a really big list of like these are some rule ideas, and I probably will do that. But I want to first like start out about thinking, okay, in general, for going forward, how can you come up with rules on your own, and like how can you dive into what that headspace looks like for like how do I figure out what a good rule would be. I think number one is you have to think about what is your motivation and what is your partner's motivation for being a mommy dom and being in a relationship, right? Are you in it for the high protocol or the role play and dressing up, or for the caretaking and nurturance, or having guidance in your life, or providing service or receiving service? What is it that you both get? And like it can be more than one thing, right? Like it's not just like pick one and then nothing else. Like whatever it is that feeds you and what you like about it, use that as your initial tool for like narrowing down what would be good to start out like for a role. Because if your main motivation for having a power exchange relationship is I want somebody who can just order me to bend over and then spank me 10 times, and you're doing it because you're a really hardcore masochist whose pain and pleasure is enhanced by the power exchange, you're going to probably want to have very different rules versus somebody who's just in it for like non-sexual service. Because a masochist who's just a masochist is not necessarily going to, unless they're emotional masochist maybe, they're not really going to get a whole lot out of like being told to scrub the bathroom floors with a toothbrush. But Yeah. So think about what it is that motivates you and what you want to get out of your relationship. I'm going to assume, because you are of the mommy dom flavor, that you are somewhere in the vicinity of caretaking, nurturance, helping your partner achieve certain goals and things in life. And this can be a little bit tricky to navigate, especially with a newer relationship, because you don't necessarily want to become super enmeshed in somebody else's life when you're newer to that and like overstep boundaries, like taking away. Sometimes you don't want to take away too many responsibilities from somebody, because then that feels like you don't trust them to be able to do it on their own. But I would think about doing things like, okay, do they need help with a morning routine? Waking up at a certain time? Having a bedtime? Do they have certain professional goals that they want to meet? Do they need help with procrastination or scheduling? Do they want to read more books? Like, what do they want to achieve? How can you help them do that? And how can you do it in a way that reinforces the role play in your relationship? So, for example, if you're mommy dom and your partner is like, my sleep schedule is turbo fucked and I need help being able to wake up at a certain time in the morning, what can you help me do? As a mommy dom, you can step in and you can create rules that are things like, the little one will be in bed by approximately 11 p.m. Central Time, and during bedtime, for 30 minutes before getting in bed, you will not look at your computer, be on your phone, not use your phone in bed, like whatever. Like, come with a protocol for what to do at night, with the goal of like being able to help this person achieve their goal of waking up early in the morning. Now, especially with things like shifting a sleep schedule, I do want to note that it is very difficult to change that literally overnight, like literally overnight, because our bodies are just not like, if you shift, like if your current schedule is like, I go to bed at 4 a.m. and I wake up at noon, it's very difficult to suddenly go from that to going to bed at 10 p.m. and waking up at 6 a.m. So like, do it in a more graded way if that's something you want to do, where it's about changing a behavior. And really this goes for any kind of like behavior modification type rules, where it's about like taking a certain medication or supplements a certain number of times a day, drinking a certain amount of water, or changing bedtime schedules, or brushing your teeth twice a day, or whatever it is, like making your bed. Like you got to do things gradually. I think a lot of people set themselves up for failure, not just with like mommy doms, but with any kind of DS, where they go, all right, so currently the way that your life goes as a submissive is you forget your medication at least 3 times a week, you go to bed at 3 a.m., you're sleep deprived every day, you forget to drink water, you're dehydrated, you're like, your whole life is kind of just like not where you want it to be. It's a little bit messy, a little bit hot mess. You can't just suddenly have a dom come in and go, all right, I have ordered you to fix all of this and just be better. That doesn't really work. Sometimes if you're already almost there yourself and you just need a little external push, it can be helpful. But I think it's unrealistic to expect that is totally going to change overnight. No, beeswax is not safe for wax play. This is like not even a question that's really directed to me, but please do not use beeswax for wax play. It burns very hot. No, don't do it. It's like, it fucking burns at what, like 175? It's way too hot. Just no. Like I will say, I do know, I've heard of people, I don't know anyone personally, I do know of people that will use beeswax for wax play. I do not recommend it at all. It is very, very difficult in terms of like preventing burns. It's just like, why, like, if you've never done wax play before, why start on like maximum intensity level? That's my opinion about it. But going back, I think, to the rules question, I also want to talk about rules that are just for fun, because I feel like I focused on ones that are like helping you make your life better, unfucking your whole life schedule. Like, that can be really good. But also, I think sometimes we just want rules because they feel like fun and they're reinforcing to us because they have that sense of fun, right? That could be things like having an outfit check every day. That could be things like sending photos of your lunch or any snacks that you have. That could be things like being required to send a good morning or good evening message to somebody saying like, good morning, mommy, good evening, mommy. Like just something to like ping back and forth in the relationship and be like, I'm thinking about you. That could be silly stuff, right? It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. It could be a rule that your partner always has to sleep with a teddy bear, or they have to sleep wearing pajama bottoms every night, or they have to use bubblegum flavored toothpaste. Like if you just kid like the bubblegum flavored kids toothpaste. Like it could yeah, it's you can do things that are meant for structure and for helping somebody's life, but you can also do rules that are just like because this is fun and it reinforces our dynamic, right? This could even be things like forms of address or speech, or things like using emojis or not. Like people have rules. Like I'm not kidding you. People have rules about like my submissive is not allowed to use emojis when they text me, like, or more than like one emoji per message. So you think rules are always very super serious, but they can actually be quite pedantic and very focused on one thing. Oh, thank you, Andrew. No question. Just wanted to send this. Well, you are so thanked, Andrew. Thank you so much for hanging out, and hopefully you're having a good Friday. Okay, so does that kind of help clear up some rule ideas? I really think people don't think broadly enough about rules. They think that rules have to be like a certain kind of thing or a kind of way, but hopefully my example of just saying like you can have a rule where you're not allowed to like send emojis in a text message demonstrates that it can be anything. It can be anything from, you know, the submissive will send a good morning message as soon as they wake up between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. Or it could be whenever the submissive is preparing a snack at home, they have to use, what's the word for those little, isn't there like a special word for like the divided bowls that kids get? Like, I feel like there's a word for that. Now it's going to drive me nuts. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's not. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of a brand name. Anyways, like, you know, there's like the kids, like kind of the plasticky kids plates. Like whenever the submissive has a snack at home, they must prepare it using this type of bowl. Or they must, like if you maybe have more of an ABDL thing going on where your partner is more of a baby or has that kind of headspace sometimes, like maybe you have a rule where they have to have a sippy cup at least once a week and they have to send you a photo of it. Like it can genuinely be whatever you want it to be. Think very, very broadly. I really recommend actually, if you're in any way like a creative person, if you get something out of sketching or drawing or even just writing words down, if you're the kind of that brained, I recommend just getting out, like, it could be colorful construction paper, it could be crayons, it could be markers, it could just be a pen and pencil, it could be like a mood board on Pinterest, washi tape, and a diary, I guess. I don't know, it could be whatever you want. But give yourself a lot of room somewhere and just like jot down like words, feelings, ideas you have for rules, and then get that, reflect on that, and see how you can turn that into what you want to have. Like think about like the kind of feelings you want to evoke with your rules, ideas that come in your head in terms of like, I'm picturing something with clothing or with food or with morning routines or with pajamas, or like, and then you want to evoke feelings of trust and caretaking and joy and silliness, and like how can you make all that work? So that's what I would do. And then also just like be aware you don't have to overdo it. Like I would say most of the successful long-term relationships I know that are focused in power exchange, they have somewhere between like 2 and 10 rules, like on an ongoing basis, not like 30 or 50. So you don't have to come up with a bunch. Come up with a couple of things that are consistently fun and sustainable and feed you both long-term. But I look forward, if there's any sort of follow-up comments or questions, I would love to follow up on this. Yes, thank you so much for all the wonderful examples. These were all so cute and helpful, and I think he's going to love a lot of these. You're so creative. Well, this is my favorite part of my job. I like, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an artist, and I was not good at it. Like, I just don't have any natural talent at drawing, which I realized that if I just practiced, I could probably be okay at it. I do realize that art is largely a skill that you build, not just an innate talent, but whatever. Like, I get a lot of joy out of giving other people ideas. I think it's great, and I just love that there are so many options, and people don't realize how many options that there are. And sticker charts. If I didn't mention sticker charts last time, or like a sticker calendar, or a sticker diary, something involving stickers. Very good key for a lot of littles and mommies and ABDLs and basically, and pets even as well. Like, everyone just loves stickers, honestly. Even people that are not pet players or those anything like that still love stickers. So use the main tool available to you, which is stickers. No, the main tool is communication, but sometimes stickers help with the communication, especially if you're giving somebody a sticker for communicating. Yes. Thank you everyone in here for being so helpful too. Yes, we are a very nice, helpful bunch, I feel like. We got good folks in here. All right, let's get into some other questions. And again, feel free, if you want me to get your question right away, you can always use a super chat or a Streamlabs link down below. Literally $2, $5, doesn't matter what it is. I'll read it out, and it just helps me highlight and like focus on a certain question for a while. I don't really have any like hard and fast rules besides that. Do you have all of your stuff plugged into a surge protector? I do. However, the problem is that my microphone plugs directly and gets power from my computer, which is then plugged into a surge protector. So it wasn't like the microphone itself wasn't even directly plugged into the wall in the first place. So I appreciate the comment, but all my stuff has had the assistance of somebody who works with computers for a living. So like everything is very well taken care of in that department, but sometimes things happen. Yes, YouTube does take from the super chats. I don't know, like, as far as I know, that's like just the thing on all of the platforms, like whether you're downloading an app or a YouTube super chat or Twitch or anything like that, they always just take a percentage for, I don't know, their pain and suffering of having to host me talking about kinky shit on their platform, I guess. I don't know. I am great. Oh, good question. My Dom has ASD. Any experience with that? So I don't personally have ASD. I want to make sure because I think that is autism spectrum disorder, right? We're not talking about some other thing I don't know about that also has an abbreviation of ASD. Because there must be more than one thing that's called ASD, right? I guess the only thing that pops up is autism spectrum disorder. I thought there was something else that shared the same abbreviation, but maybe not. Anyways, I don't personally have autism. I have been with and been roommates with and dated and played with many people that are autistic or are somewhere on that spectrum. And it just happened. So I'm sorry you've maybe missed the boat on getting this information as easily, but there was a really great conference that happened a couple weeks ago that was called Thrive. And it's a mental health conference that talks about kink, sexuality, BDSM, and different mental health things and neurodivergence and neurospiciness of all flavors and shapes and sizes. And they definitely had a lot of classes that were talking about autism and ADHD and emotional dysregulation and skills and all kinds of things. And it was very helpful for a lot of folks. I guess I don't know what to say other than like, it is a fairly prevalent thing in the kink community. I don't have any hard data about this because there's not like funding for research about this out there to really get accurate numbers. My sense of the community is that things of various types of neurodivergence, but especially autism, is very common in the kink community. It's something that is widely understood, widely known about, widely accommodated. That doesn't mean that everyone that you interact with in the kink scene is going to be understanding or kind or willing to accommodate you, because there are always ableist assholes out there that are like, they don't think it's real, or they think it's overdiagnosed, or they think that you don't look autistic, or whatever. I don't like whatever it is these people say. So you're not always going to get people that fully understand it, but it is a very open thing enough to where I do know people that have munches, social groups, event spaces that are dedicated to folks that have autism or autistic, depending on what language you personally prefer for yourself, and so on and so forth. So it is, I'm not wearing jeans today, actually. I'm wearing leggings. I normally wear a skirt or leggings when I live stream because it's way easier for me to like pose my legs in a comfortable position. I find it very uncomfortable to wear jeans when I'm sitting down at a desk all day. So I don't normally wear jeans at my desk, but I am currently wearing leggings. Anyways, hopefully that answers your question. I am sure if we surveyed the chat right now, we would have many individuals that have ASD and could maybe provide some insight and experience with that. I would say, honestly, don't know if it's more common for subs or for doms or tops or bottoms. I feel like it's pretty evenly split. And I don't really have any direct advice I can give you other because it totally depends on the individual person, right? Like I don't know your dom. I don't know like if you currently have conflict around something specifically, but just know that there is lots of ways to get support for it. And if you do have more specific questions, I'd be happy to answer it. Okay. I'm wondering how to handle shutdowns as a submissive. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would love to know, like, especially if there are autistic folks in the chat that would, like, want to share their techniques that I think would help them. I would love to crowdsource this because I'm not autistic and I don't want to speak over anyone's lived experience or what they find actually helps them. I would say, I don't want to say anything that's like wrong or like isn't universal, and so I'm a little bit cautious about like giving advice out of turn. Yeah, like ask him what he would want when he shuts down. Yeah, I really feel like honestly that's probably the core answer is before a shutdown happens, ask your partner because they are an adult and they probably have known that they do this for a while and like they know what they want, they know what would help them. They're not necessarily going to be able to articulate or want to articulate what they need in the moment when it happens. So it's almost always better to talk about it before it happens. And this goes for so many things. This goes for like triggers happening. This goes for if somebody has a panic attack, like this, like it could be physical illness stuff, chronic illness stuff, mental health stuff, doesn't matter. Talking about it proactively with a partner on what to do before it actually happens is very helpful versus like only ever trying to figure it out in the moment, like when it pops up. I would say the same. Ask him what he would want or what he thinks would help in the situation. Yeah, taking breaks during scenes helps my sensory issues. Yeah, especially if it's like a sensory issue thing. Like, just figure out, like, if you have a way to brainstorm together, like, what are potential sensory issues, like, category by sense, and then, like, what the triggers are, what about it is triggering if they feel comfortable verbalizing that, or they can verbalize that, or write it down somewhere, just so you have a way to reference that in the future. I think having a conversation about this is great. I think also having a place where it's written down somewhere that could be in a text message, a note on your phone, a shared Google Doc. Like actually a shared Google Doc might be a really great tool like longer term in a relationship to have for, I can imagine different things are going to come up and it's good to just have a shared understanding of like, okay, this is a thing that happens. This is our game plan for dealing with it. And then we can update it as we get new information, try new things, and find what works or what doesn't work. Yeah. Understanding triggers and warning signs and educate each other beforehand for sure. Yep, absolutely. Kind of like having different sex drives. How would one deal with reduced canceled playtime due to disabilities such as chronic migraines? Okay, that's like a separate question. I'm going to try to get to that if I have time. I will keep that in the back of my head because I think I have a good answer for it. But yeah. Hey, no worries about being late, y'all. Like, just come here for the stream when you're ready. The stream's here before and after. No worries about being on time. Yeah, that makes sense. He is slowly coming out of a shutdown, so I want to be prepared for this conversation. Yeah, like totally. Like, I don't know how much space your partner wants after something like that. Like, that's a very individual thing. I wouldn't necessarily like. I think the main pitfall that like, especially if your partner was like not treated very well by caretakers or teachers or something, when this has happened in the past, like when they were growing up, this is something that they've like had in their life, like definitely be very gentle about it. Don't be like, hey, what the fuck happened? Like, don't in any way, like, not that you would, but just to like be cognizant of the way you're approaching the conversation of, I wouldn't do it right away afterwards. I'd give lots of space for just like the air to be different. And yeah, no, ask as many questions as you want. Go for it. Yeah, it is not like I get to what I get to if you ask 3 questions or 1 or 10. Like it's great. Yeah, go for it. Having ASD and being new to kink myself, I don't have much to add, but I would absolutely be very open with all your communication to avoid any and all misunderstandings with your relationship. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really one of the keys too, is like be kind, but be open and honest. Like, don't beat around the bush. Don't, like, I'm not advocating for like sugarcoating anything. I just think that there's a way to like give space for the air to change and for it to not accidentally turn into like a harsh conversation, while also at a different time being direct and clear about what you want and what you need, and like making it very clear that like, I want to help you if this happens again. Is there anything I can do if you feel this coming on, or if it actually happens? What do you want from me? Because I want to be able to help you. Yeah. When I saw your video about autism and kink, I was like, I know I'm in the right place. Thank you. I do try my best. Like, I am not perfect at this, but it's something I am always trying to learn about. Absolutely. Hey, no worries. We go all over the place with topics, honestly. Like, we almost never have like a theme for the entire live stream. I think occasionally we've talked about like, maybe like dating advice or like brats and littles, like for a long, long time in a stream. But we almost always end up going ping, 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 ping. So no worries. My brain is a repository of information. So I have no issues just hopping around different topics. All right. Yes, she is the Pomeranian. Oh, I forgot. I got to turn the pet camera back on. Oh, she's so sleepy. She's sleepy because she ate the cat food. Ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to adjust the doggo camera here, and then we'll move on to the next question. Okay, zoom. Witness the floofiness. Witness the floof. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, next question. Chop, chop. We're not in a rush. We're here to have fun. First question. What is color blindness? Color blindness. I've never heard this before. Great question, Keseto Saiba. Seto Kaiba. Fuck it, I will say that name correctly at least once today. I swear to God. So I have a video that I started kind of doing last night during the live stream on Patreon, but I didn't actually get all the way through it. And I finished it last night after the stream, and then like a little bit this morning. And essentially what color blindness is it is when you act blindly in a relationship because you want to get to a collar so much, like ignoring red flags, ignoring warning signs that you aren't really compatible, going along with kinks that aren't really your kinks just because you're trying to get collared because you idolize and look forward to being collared so much that you just ignore a bunch of other shit to get to it. And it's like a fairly, I don't know how common it is. I think it goes along oftentimes with sub frenzy, for example. I think it's very common for folks that are like newer to the scene that come in and go, okay, what do we need to do? How am I kinky? And then they get this messaging right away that the best kind of kink is this 24/7 collared power exchange thing. And then they go, great, how do I make that happen? And then they just like boldly go forward into trying to get collared without really thinking about it. Or like, I think even as well, it's common for folks that have been collared before to really want to get collared again because they feel like a failure, they feel judged, they feel like if they can't get collared again, it was proof they were never really kinky to begin with, or that they're worthless, or they're not a real submissive, or, a million different, negative self-talk things. And I think it's common for folks to get into that headspace and like act irrationally because they're desperate to like just have that reassurance again of having that external proof of I'm a valid submissive, I'm a good submissive, please give me the collar to validate me and prove to everyone else that I am in fact a good, real, true sub. I think that can lead to some dangerous places, bad relationships, not good compatibility. The reason why you haven't heard about it before is because I can't say for sure who coined it, but it was probably Pup Amp who talked about it during a live stream, and then Race Bannon wrote an article about it, and now I'm making a video talking about Race Bannon's article talking about Pup Amp's live stream. So we're currently 3 creators deep into this concept being a thing. And honestly, like I said yesterday, you never know where new terms are going to come up. You just never know what's going to happen, who's going to come up, or who's going to say the next SSC, or your kink's not my kink, but your kink is still okay, or bratting, or topping from the bottom, or any of the other words or phrases we have that at one point we didn't have, right? At one point we didn't have the concept of sub-frenzy, or topping from the bottom, or being a smart-ass masochist. Like, these were just things we did not conceive of, did not have language for, but now we do. And so you never know what the next new hot thing is going to be. And this could be it. Or not. I do think it is a useful term, though. I do think maybe it won't be... I mean, if I write a book about kink, I will include it alongside a conversation about sub-frenzy. Absolutely. Does the world really need another Kink 101 book? Probably not. But, give me a couple years. Yeah, we love people chiming in and contributing also to answering questions. I am just one person. I am not the definitive authority on kink. I am not anointed by anyone to do that. I have no certifications, credentials, anything. I am just a person who reads a lot about kink, does a lot of kink, does kink relationships, goes to events, I just have experience, lived experience, book knowledge to back myself up. I would do this more professionally if this was a thing that could be done more professionally than the way that I currently do it. But unless I want to, devote 6 years of my life to getting a PhD in clinical sexology and then probably due to professional limitations not be able to do this as my job anymore if I wanted to actually help people as a sexologist in a clinical capacity, yeah, it's not easy to get education about kink out there, but we try. Okay, yeah, I think I answered the question about collar blindness. Oh, okay, good question from another Evie. Hello, other Evie. Is there a best way, in your opinion, to public play with someone in a dungeon, from outside of the lifestyle without making things weird? Okay. I gotta have my little Snickers break here, and I'm gonna have some water. Lemonade sounds so good right now. But I ran out. I drank the rest of it earlier. I do have some soba chop, but I don't have any lemonade. Okay, so best way to play in public, someone in a dungeon, from outside of the lifestyle without making things weird. I think, to other people in the dungeon, could that ever be weird? Unless other people knew about it and you were doing a scene that was themed around how you knew them from real life. But even then, it's sort of well, it's not really any of their business, is it? So I don't think it could be awkward for anyone else in the dungeon. So I imagine it's more about how can you make things less weird for you when you're playing with this person. I think number one is having very, very, very clear upfront boundaries around talking about this in the dungeon, outside of the dungeon. What I would probably recommend doing is if all you want to do is play with this person, you're not looking to have a sexual hookup long term, be in a DS relationship, date this person. Like you just, like, it's a very contained space, and this is very easy to do. Just be very clear about, like, all right, when we're in this space, we don't talk about work, the hobby group, whatever it is that you have shared between each other. And then in the hobby group or the whatever, we don't talk about the kink stuff. So make it like mutually blind between the two things. Like make it so one is in a box over here, one's in the box over here. And when we're in one box, we don't talk about the other box, just to create an extra layer. Cause I like if it's anything involving like career or being professional, I imagine you really don't want any cross contamination between those two spaces. So just be very clear about boundaries around talking in different places about different things. And then also be clear about like, not just talking about the things in that other space, but in general, right? Like, do you want it to be like, never mention this ever again, or only talk about it with me, or it's okay if you talk about it on FetLife, but don't talk about it on Facebook? Like, do you want to have social media quarantine where like maybe your friends on FetLife or talk on FetLife, but you don't talk on like Facebook or Instagram or like a vanilla social media account? So how do you want to set up communication? Are you comfortable with them talking about you to other partners, like even mentioning you at all? Are you okay if they keep it anonymous? Are you okay if they maybe say your FetLife name or your scene name, but not your real name, or how they know you? Like how comfortable you are with that is going to be individual. But I think especially when you already know somebody from outside of a dungeon or outside of the lifestyle, it's just better to be safe than sorry and like really over communicate what you want those boundaries to look like. Now for the scene itself, and for making the scene itself less awkward, I gotta be honest, my first instinct is to be like, but like bondage gear is a great tool. Yeah, like I would think about things like a hood or vet wrap or a leather pillowcase or a latex hood, or like some way to create a sense of anonymity and a way of like having more visual distance, especially the first time you play with this person and you're like, it's a little awkward. Like sometimes it is easier if you don't, like if you have like more of a separation between like who you see this person as in the dungeon and who you see this person as in everyday life, or like however else you know them. So and this goes both ways, right? Because like if you're the top, like you can wear a mask or a wig or face paint or like a pet play hood or one of those like Venetian ballroom masks. Like you can, there's definitely options for the top or dom kind of dressing in a more anonymized way. And then on the bottom side, there's a bajillion options. There's everything I mentioned, and there's like the leather hoods and the pillowcases and everything else. There's so many options for if you want to, or even just like having the person like face down and like doing like eye contact restriction, right? Like you will not make eye contact with me unless I give you permission to, or keep your eyes downcast, or like they're on a spanking bench and they're face down and you're over them and then they're not allowed to like look at you. And you can play that like it's a power thing, because it is, but it also gives you the benefit of like having that additional separation of like not just like thinking about maybe where you know them from elsewhere. And I think that will probably, based on my experience with stuff like this, that should probably help a lot, just having that layer of like anonymity. It could also look, if you don't like head stuff, it could look like having on more like heavy roleplay costumes. That could be like a nurse roleplay or a latex outfit or pet play, like something that is like a completely different outfit from like how you would know, like a completely different outfit from how you would normally see them. That, again, pet play, nurse stuff, anything with like medical play, animal role play, ABDL. I mean, even stuff that's like less common to see for role play would totally work here too, like medieval stuff or 1950s stuff or Ren Fair stuff. Like you know, there's lots of options for different costuming and ways to, again, create that separation and hopefully make it less awkward. And then I think the big thing I would say is like, it's okay if it's awkward. Like, I think where people mess up is it's a sort of like don't think about pink elephants problem. Like, when they're really afraid of making it awkward, it becomes awkward by virtue of you being so worried about making it awkward. So instead of being like, what do I do? I gotta make it not weird and not awkward. I gotta do everything I can to avoid that. Like, just accept and have a little breath and just pause and be like, it is okay if right now it's a little bit awkward, or we have an awkward moment, and recognizing that having an awkward moment only ruins it if you decide it ruins it, or they decide it ruins it, right? You can, it's like vanilla sex is the same way. Like, you can, if you're having a romp in the hay and then like you trip over something when you're trying to look sexy, or the cute clothing you wear, the strap on it breaks, like, you can have that be like, oh my God, my life is over. I'm the most unsexy person ever. No one's ever going to want to touch me again. It's over. They hate me. I look so stupid. This is the worst. And just like blow it up into the worst thing ever. And for the record, I don't blame people who have this impulsive mentality, because I think a lot of us have this and struggle with it, at least occasionally. But I am empowering you to know that you have the ability to choose your reaction, and you can choose to react and freak out and blow it up and like make it the worst thing ever and make it 10 times worse because of the reaction. Or you can look at it and go, reality says funny stuff like this happens. You know, sometimes things break, or we trip, or we make weird noises, or the sexy thing we said totally sounded completely different out loud than in our head. And as long as you can roll with it and go like, hey, could I try again? Or laugh at yourself. Like, if you can laugh at yourself when you want to, that can be really helpful. I'm not saying you always need to laugh at yourself, because like sometimes like you're hurt, right? Like, you trip and you stub your toe, or your partner laughs at you. And like, I think it's really hard, like, if a partner initiates the laughter or the teasing first without you first processing it and then them responding to you, like, that can be like, hey, why are you making fun of me? Like, that hurts. So, you know, it's not a be all end all, but yeah, you have lots of options for managing how weird it is. And I think recognizing if it does get weird, just like, you can laugh it off, you can walk it off. It's one moment out of the millions of moments that exist in a scene, and you can choose to dwell on that and focus on it, or move on and help it be less awkward by not holding on to it. Because if we spend mental time on something, if we are dwelling on something and again ruminating and going, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever, how could I do this, I'm so ridiculous, no one's ever going to want to play with me ever again, I totally embarrassed myself, we can ruminate on that and hold on to it. And by virtue of doing that, we've told our brains this thought is important. We've signaled to our brains, this is a thought I need to keep having. It's important for me to keep thinking about it because it's serving some kind of protective function. It's helping with my emotions, like whatever. But if you can learn to just let it go, your brain goes, oh, we're not holding on to that. It's not important. We don't have to keep thinking about that. Because the more you think about it, the more you keep thinking about it, because your brain thinks you need to think about it because it seems like it's important. So it seems more important because like, and then it becomes this positive feedback loop of like, then you start just like hyper focusing on this one really negative thought, and then nobody wants that. So anyways, that is, I think I don't see any follow-up questions or anything else. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. I mean, yeah, we're in the second half of the live stream. So if you want to, I would love it if you could give the stream a like, give it a big old thumbs up if you've been enjoying the questions and the answers. It helps people find the live stream, helps people find it in the ruthless, brutal reality of the algorithm and being on YouTube. So I appreciate you all. If you are liking the live stream, don't lick it, just like it. No licking. I don't think if you lick your phone, that's going to do anything, but I mean, maybe it will. I know time really does fly. Okay, so let's get into. Okay, will also lick it. All right, only lick it if you have YouTube's permission. Okay. Oh my god, broccoli emoji, air emoji. I love how I just know what that means. That, like, being told what that means. That's brilliant. I love it. Cute. Cheeky. Little cheeky. Okay. Question. I'm going through a breakup largely because my partner's partner is having a tough time. Any ideas about how to navigate staying friends who are keeping the door open for future dating? Okay, I have a great book to recommend you. This is like the new hotness. Well, it's actually, no. Sort of, there's one book I recommend for general poly stuff, and then there's one book I recommend for this specific thing. So I read this when I went through my last, like, big breakup. And it's been helpful ever since. And it is called The Polyamory Breakup Book. It is by Kathy Labriola. I'm not confident about if that's what it actually is. It is a really good book, and I don't know why it doesn't have better reviews on Goodreads. I think, I mean, honestly, like, I will say this, it's not, like, just a book about solutions. It's a book about, like, why breakups happen, understanding how breakups happen in polyamory, how that's different from monogamy. So it's not just the, like, how to work through a breakup. So if that's the only thing that you want, this might not be the best book for you, but I feel like it's worth it because it's, like, $9 on Kindle, and it's, like, literally not even, like, for less than the price of a movie ticket, you can get good information. Oh, did that? Okay, no, that's the right URL. Okay. Actually came out in 2019, so it's a little bit older than I thought it was. And I feel like it was helpful when I read it, when I went through a really big breakup, to, like, understand the mechanics of, like, how breakups happen and, like, how to, like, I don't know if it talks specifically about, like, keeping the door open for future possibilities, but I think especially if it's something where it's not, like, an incompatibility problem or a really big fight or a values issue. It sounds like the main problem right now that's causing the breakup is that, like, you have a partner whose partner is having their own kind of bad time, and it's very common for people that when a bad time is happening, or, like, even just, like, having a baby or moving, people tend to, like, circle the wagons and go, okay, we're shutting everything down. No more other relationships. We got to work through the seasonal depression or the panic attacks or the PTSD triggers or whatever it is. And then when we figure that stuff out, then we're going to maybe have some more energy or more spoons, depending on the situation, to be able to possibly have other relationships again. The main thing I would say, and I'm sure that many of you in the chat can reinforce this being a good idea, because it is hard to do, is even if you want to stay friends and you want the door to be open, I would still have a clean break. And thank you for the super chat. You're a vessel, you are what you put in. Oh, that's a good one. Wise words from mom. Moms get all the good quotes, seriously. Yeah, so I have a link I put in there to that polyamory breakup book. I think there might also be an audiobook version as well. If you're an audiobook person, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to find, like, poly and, like, kink books that are... No, there is an audiobook. There's an audiobook. It's apparently already in my library, which I didn't even know that I think I just got that automatically when I downloaded the Kindle version. But the audiobook's like $8. So even if you're not a big reader, there is also an audiobook version of it. But anyways, getting back to my point about, like, clean breaks and, like, wanting to be friends, I think, especially when you're in the midst of a breakup, and I can't speak for you because I don't know you personally. I don't know the level of energy or commitment or, like, how attracted you are to this person or anything else. So I can't tell you what you're feeling, but I think it's very tempting when we go through an initial breakup to be like, I still want to be friends. I don't want to lose you. You're my best friend ever. I can't picture my life without you. And, like, yeah, like, when you're in the middle of a breakup and you've been with somebody for a year, 2 years, they're your first poly partner, your first BDSM experience, your first DS relationship, other first, or even if they're not your first, they're your current best version of whatever it is that you had. Okay, so we have another question. From Zidane again, and I will get to that, but I want to finish answering this breakup one first. So pinning it, we'll get back to this one. It's about initiating scenes and shyness. Yes, definitely a very solvable problem. So good question. So it's really like when you're in the moment, you have to remember that when you're in the middle of a breakup, you're in the middle of a ton of feelings. You've got feelings of like loss and grief and hurt, maybe jealousy or envy, confusion if you don't know why the breakup is happening. You might try to bargain and be like, hey, this can still work. And when you're in the middle of swimming around in that emotional soup, it's very difficult to make long-term decisions in the same way, and commitments in the same way that like when you're in the middle of a scene and you're going through all the turbulent, amazing, wonderful emotions of a scene space, probably not a good time to like make long-term life commitments in the middle of subspace, in the same way it's not a good idea to make it in the middle of a breakup. So I recommend having a clean break where you don't talk for a certain period of time. That could be a week, that could be a month, just like some other time to focus on you, right? That could be going to a therapist to help process the breakup, reading books, having other time focusing on your other hobbies, going outside, going on walks, spending time with your beautiful, wonderful, adorable pets, focusing on other interests you couldn't do when you were with this person because of the amount of time they took up, going to the gym, focusing on a physical hobby, playing a sport, picking up a sport for the first time, reconnecting with your family, baking a lot, doing craft projects, finishing that painting you've wanted to finish for 2 years, whatever it is, or even just like playing a video game. You're like, hey, I've had this video game that I bought 2 years ago on Steam. I've never played. Do that. I don't recommend like, retail therapy or like binging on food. Like I don't like really encourage things that require a lot of money, or like go back to like impulse control issues potentially with things again like food or shopping or like gambling or anything. Like don't like take a weekend trip to Vegas with the gal pals. Wouldn't recommend that. But if it's something that can be productive and help you work through those feelings, I definitely recommend that. It could be having a spa day with your gal pals or your NB pals. It could be going and dedicating more time to self-care, or going and getting a facial, or going to the beach for a couple days on a long weekend. Like just have time to be yourself, by yourself if you're more of an introvert, or be yourself with other people who knew you outside of this relationship and spend time with them and realize that you can be a whole other person outside of this relationship. And then once you've had that space to process like, okay, how do I feel about this now that I've had some time and distance and my emotions have gone from, not to say that you're like being overly emotional, that you're crazy, like it just, the reality is that breakups, especially when they're not a breakup that's your idea, that you didn't see coming, like there's so many feelings there, it takes time to re-regulate and like re-level down to like more of what your norm typically feels like. So have some time apart and then reassess whether or not you want to stay friends. I would navigate something like, I would probably say like, that's like, especially if it's a partner's partner going through a tough time, I would say, hey, that totally sucks that partner's partner is having a tough time. I totally get that we can't see each other. I wish you both the best. Keep my number, keep my email address. I would love to reconnect at some point in the future and possibly revisit us having some kind of connection once, you've had some time to figure this out. I'm going to also need some space on my own. So I would like it if we could at least have X amount of time before we speak again. I'm not trying to reject you. I just want time to be able to process my own feelings. And currently I'm open to having some kind of connection afterwards. And I want to leave that door open, but I also want to make sure that I'm taking time for myself. And hopefully somebody that's a good poly partner, that's aware of all the mental health things, will understand your desire to do this. However, if you are dealing with somebody that has avoidant attachment issues, somebody that tends to run away quickly, shut down quickly, which I'm going to be honest with you, seems to be a much higher risk problem in polyamory compared to vanilla and like mono relationships. I don't know what it is. I think there are a subset of poly people that are attracted to it partially because they have attachment issues. Either they're very anxious avoidant, and I think more commonly a lot of they're just straight up avoidant, and sometimes being poly like kind of helps them be avoidant without having to deal with the scary feeling of being alone. So it can be a little bit reinforcing for people with avoidant personality things already, or just avoidant characteristics to their attachment. So be aware of that. Like, there is a possibility if your partner or your partner's partner is very avoidant in their attachment style, like they may read you asking for space as an outright rejection and go, you're not going to reject me first, I'm going to reject you first. And then they just block you and block your number. Like, that is a possibility. I wouldn't dwell on that too much, though, because you can't have somebody else dictate your life. Like, you can't capitulate your own happiness and your own healing process to make somebody else feel comfortable. And, like, that's going to be a long-term problem in any relationship with this person if that's how they would act for you asking for space for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. So yeah, it's tough. Like, breakups are super tough. Even if you have other partners, even if you have a good support network, like, breakups are really tough. It's just, I would have space first before you can really evaluate whether or not you want to, like, stay friends with the person, if it's worth having that commitment, especially if, like, they're going to blow up a whole relationship because somebody else is, like, having an issue that they need to tend to more than you. Because to me, that signals, and I don't know this person, I don't know your relationship. My read on that from similar experiences and people I've known is people that tend to go the, like, blow up all of their relationships, shut down all of their connections because the main nesting or committed actual partner is more important, gotta blow everything else up to heal this. Like, that's gonna be a pattern. It doesn't matter if you're a friend, doesn't matter if you're a partner. Like, at the end of the day, even though they're poly or they're open in some way, the monogamous dyad that is that partner and that partner's partner together is the central core, and they are willing to sacrifice other people in relationships to preserve that, which is a little bit, like, unfair. But yeah, some people do be like that. Being aromantic and having had my own bad breakup, I personally can't comprehend why people continue to get into relationships when they just end up despising each other when they inevitably break up. I mean, like, the despising isn't inevitable. I think, like, we've sort of been taught that a little bit in media, that, like, in order for it to be a real breakup, you suddenly have to hate the person and despise them. And I think what ends up happening is, like, breakups could be much more amicable, but a lot of people wait way too long before a breakup happens. Like, they already hate the person and they've been hating them for a long time, and they just will not rip the band-aid off. And then because they don't rip the band-aid off for 2 years, yeah, it's going to suck when you finally rip it off because you've been building up that resentment. So it's a lot better to either, like, go to couples therapy right away, commit to making changes in the relationship if you feel that you need them and you want to preserve the relationship, or just recognize when something's not working and stop wasting time. And hopefully, my observation, luckily, has been that most people, if they're still, like, intentionally dating in their late 20s into their 30s, people tend to hold on to things less just because they don't have as much time, because they're like, all right, I've been playing around. I want to find the thing I want to find for my life, and I haven't found it yet, so tick, tick, you know. Oh, thank you. I have amazing advice this evening. I don't know. I'm just on a roll today. What can I say? I was, like, not feeling it before the stream. I was like, oh, I just want to watch Demon Slayer and have ice cream, and I have lemonade. But I'm live streaming. But I'm in it. I'm in the zone. Because you guys are great. You ask such good questions. Okay, so Sedaine. Let's get back to Sedaine. Sedaine? I don't know why. S or Z? I don't know which one of those two it is. The problem is that if they aren't really kinky or very different desires, then it could be a compatibility issue and you can't really do much. Yeah. Yeah, alloromantics, speaking as an alloromantic, I honestly don't know what we're on about most of the time either, to be honest. Like, we just make bad decisions sometimes because our stupid brains make us, and the brains just be like that sometimes. Is that the quality advice we all came here to listen to? I hope so. Initiating scenes and your partner being shy and then possibly not being kinky. So all of that whole package, again, want to start by saying, very common issue, just in the same way that it is very common for partners. And I think this kind of gets to another question I also highlighted earlier, which is like differences in like desire for kink and for sex. Like, it is very rare you're going to have a partnership where you're both perfectly in sync and you want the same things at the same time, all the time, the whole relationship, or most of the time. Just not a very likely thing to have happen. Most people have some kind of disparity where either it's like one person wants it a little bit more than the other, or one of them initiates it a little bit more than the other. And for some people, it's like whoosh, where it's like this person wants to have, wants to do stuff 3 times a day, and this person's like, I want to do it once a month, and then it's like much harder to navigate. It is a very common issue for newer doms, especially, to feel comfortable initiating scenes, and one, you won't really know why until you ask your partner. So please ask them if you're worried about upsetting them, violating the terms of what the norms are for your relationship and communication style. Like, modify to suit what you need to do to communicate in an effective way that you know your partner will hear you. But I would ask something along the lines of like, insert name or title here. I love getting to do scenes with you. They're so amazing. I have such a fun time. I've been thinking it might be fun to do more scenes. How can we make that happen? Make it a collaborative process. I think the number one, I gotta do my, we're doing this now. We're doing, is this bisexual sitting? Is this what bisexual sitting is? I don't know. I'm not up to date with what the kids, how my orientation changes depending on what, how I sit. But, a lot of people, especially if it's something that's been bothering the person for a long time and they feel like the partner should just get it, it's very easy to communicate things in a way that either comes across as or just directly says, why won't you do more scenes with me? What am I doing wrong? And then it becomes like this whole argument and a fight and very highly emotional, and it doesn't have to be. If you approach the situation as it's us wanting to do more of this thing together, I can pretty much guarantee you that's going to be much better received than like, I'm not happy because you're not doing enough of this thing. That might be the thought you have underneath the communication, but you don't have to communicate the like instinctive knee-jerk, I'm upset because I'm not getting my needs met. Like, you can still approach it in like a healthier, more open and productive communication way. You could also say something like, even if it's not like, I would want to do more scenes. How can we make that happen? You could also say something like, I've noticed that you're not, maybe especially if it was like a change in behavior, like I've noticed that you're not initiating scenes as much. Like, why is that? Like, approach things from an attitude of curiosity. Again, don't make assumptions. You're not going to know until your partner tells you. You might assume and think it's because they don't like BDSM as much as you. They're humoring you. They think that it's weird or whatever. More likely than not, I would say newer doms that don't initiate scenes as much, it's more likely because they don't want to violate boundaries. They don't know how to initiate a scene. They don't know that initiating a scene under certain circumstances is okay. Or they feel awkward or nervous about their skill set, and they're worried that you will judge them if they're not a good enough dom. And so for them, it's better to not try at all versus trying and potentially failing or disappointing you. So talk to your partner, figure out, okay, why aren't scenes happening as much as I would want them to? Does my partner agree they want to have more scenes happen, or do we have a mismatch around that? And I think it could also be a misunderstanding. It could also be like, especially again, if they're newer, they don't really know a lot about BDSM. A lot of people think scenes are these super high production, very involved things where you gotta have all this role play and the costuming and the dirty talk, and then it goes on for 3 hours, and it's this whole like super big thing. Because for the most part in media, though there's not a lot of it, that's what's sold to us as like being the kink experience, is like it's this very, because that's like pro-dom stuff, right? Like pro-dom stuff is like it's a very catered, very specific, like a long time thing, usually of like sessions lasting for 2, 3, 4 hours maybe. In reality though, if what you actually want, and come to the table knowing what you want to, and I'll get in, that'll be like the answer part 2 to this, is like know what you want and then like find simple ways where you can make that happen more often. Because like communicate to your partner, like if it comes up, if it fits naturally into the flow of the conversation, like remind your partner, like I just want to make sure it's clear, like I'm not expecting like a 2-hour long performance. I want something that makes us both happy, and it's fine if it's 10 minutes or super simple, or just like that's not the reality. Like most people are not having 2-hour long scenes 5 days a week. That's just like not what most people are doing. And on to sort of the second part of this, which is coming to the table knowing what you want. I think it should still be a collaborative conversation, but because you're the one who's initiating it, you're going to know more ahead of time, and that gives you more time to prepare, that you like want to talk about certain things in case it comes up. So maybe you have this conversation, you initiate it, you start out by saying like, how can we make this happen? How can we work towards having more scenes together? And then your partner says, well, like I also want to have more scenes too, but I don't really know what to do, or I don't know what's okay. Then you can sit down, you can do like a yes, no, maybe checklist. Again, links below for a copy of one of those if you haven't done one before. Or you could say, yeah, I get, or maybe they say instead, like, I want to do more scenes, but I don't think we have time. Or it sounds like it's too much production, or it's too much work. Then you can come in and say, well, I've been thinking about it, and I think what I would really get a lot out of is I would love it if you would spank me before we go to bed. Or you pick out where we go to dinner and you order a meal for me. Or we order Grubhub on Friday nights after work, and then I eat on the floor out of a bowl. Like just super simple, quick ideas that are super easy to implement. And I feel like I've like accidentally cribbed this from like CBT or somewhere. Because I feel like I read this in a book recently and went, oh, I've been just telling people to do this. But there's sort of like a way of building up confidence using exposure therapy techniques, where if your dom is shy and like doesn't feel confident in their skill set yet, very common problem. If you're a new dom and you don't feel nervous about what you're doing, you need to be more nervous, is almost always what I would say in most cases. I think it's much better to be not confident enough than overconfident and then potentially causing harm as a result of that overconfidence. But when you're developing your confidence, give your partner like small ways to win and build up, right? If they don't feel like they can handle navigating a high production, 2-hour long, heavy verbal humiliation, role play, medical play, whatever thing on a Saturday night or like a whole evening or something, start really small, right? Again, it could be like we have a TV show we watch together every week, and then when we do it, I'm going to sit, on the couch he's going to be on the couch and I'm going to be underneath him, like on the floor, and he can pet my head. Or when we go to sleep, I go to bed wearing a collar. Or he calls me good girl around the house. Or he gets to tell me what I wear when I go to work or on the weekends. Or I take off his shoes for him when he comes home. Like just come up with very small little actions you can do that take less than 10 minutes so that you can do on a regular basis to help really build up that skill set. Because if you can get little wins there, it's easier to make that longer and longer and longer. And like, because okay, I can at least do this. Can we turn that up a little bit more? Can we go a little bit farther with it next time, right? Like maybe after a week or two of doing the movie routine, maybe you add in a second element to it. And I'm kind of focusing on like power exchange stuff, but this goes for anything. It could be impact play, it could be role play, whatever it is. But like power exchange is like my most common asked question, so I'm kind of going back to that. But it could be something where, okay, now we're going to combine some stuff, we're going to do more of it. So maybe now on the Friday night, instead of just like, you know, sitting next to him on the floor while he pets your head and he's on the couch and you're on the floor, like maybe now what happens is when you come over in the evening, he tells you to take your clothes off and then you do it naked. So there's an order to take clothes off, and then there's the being in the submissive position for the evening. So now two things are happening. And then maybe you add on the being naked and the being on the floor, and then they order dinner for you. And like you don't get to say what the food is or what the restaurant is that you go to. Like food plate, like lots of communication please, like food triggers, very common. Eating disorder triggers, very common, so be cautious. But like a lot of people get a lot out of like, I'm the submissive and I'm gonna eat whatever is in the bowl my partner serves because I am a servant and I don't get a say in this, or I'm a dog, I'm a kitten, I don't get a say in what food I eat. Like it's a common thing. So maybe they like order a meal for you, or maybe you like pick out the restaurant. Like maybe they say, kitten, where would you like to eat tonight? And they're like giving you an order to like, you can, there's even flexibility within this, right? Because it could just be they order something, it's a mystery, you get what you get, or it could be they are giving you an order as the dominant to tell them what you want, right? Like you could, like they could say, kitten, tell me where you want to eat for dinner tonight. That's an order, right? And then you have to say, oh, I like Italian, I think. And then from there, they pick out what they think you'd like from an Italian place or a Korean place or Thai or burgers or whatever it is. And then that's another way to get a little bit of a win in there. And then you just keep stacking and building on that. And then before you know it, you're doing a whole actual scene, baby. And you didn't even try. Like it just happened. It was just organic. Like, yeah. Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy is what I'm currently talking about, not the other kind that involves the family jewels there. Yeah, not the other one, not the one involving other body parts. But hopefully that helps. Like it's a very common issue, but also like at the end of the day, and I haven't said this yet. It was pointed out in the chat, but I will verbalize it now just to make sure that we're talking about this. Oh yeah, the CBT joke is basically a meme at this point. I feel like we're basically getting to meme status on this one. So it needs to be remarked that not everyone's kinky. Not everyone's into kink. Not everyone's going to like it. It is some level of common for people to be in vanilla partnerships where one person decides, hey, I want to try kink. And because of the scarcity mindset that a lot of people go into relationships with, where like, I'm not going to be able to find anyone else. This is my one and only. I have to do this to make them happy. They're not willing to state what their boundaries are as much as they should. And so they're willing to say, hey, sure, I can try kink. Why not? And then they kind of go along with it to make the other person happy, especially when it's somebody who's submissive, who wants their partner to be dominant. This is the most common way that it happens. I would say it's pretty unusual for somebody who's not a submissive to go along with playing being the submissive, because like, if you don't like pain or wax or paddles or genitorture or anything, like it's gonna come out in the wash pretty quickly that you're not into it, and it's gonna be pretty obvious. But I think it's a lot easier for somebody to be like, I should enjoy being a dom. I should enjoy this because I'm the man in the relationship. I'm supposed to be the head of the household. I'm supposed to like being in control. Because there's lots of messages about masculinity and like dominance and control going together. And people feel like they should enjoy it. And they should feel lucky their partner is even offering this to them. But they might not really be into it. That's always a possibility. You cannot make a square peg fit into a round hole. And sometimes Your partner is a square peg, and the relationship you want to have is a round hole. Just like, unless you're really shaving off the edges there and putting it through, like getting a lot of sandpaper and making them into a different person, which is not healthy or good to do, you're just not going to be able to make it work all the time. Sometimes people are just not kinky, but they need to be able to have the confidence in themselves to be able to speak up. They need to know enough about themselves to know whether or not they're kinky. Because I think what a lot of people end up doing is they go, well, I don't think I'm kinky, but like I try it. And then they try it and then they don't have an exit plan. They're like, oh, I don't really, this isn't like super my thing, but I guess I'll keep doing it because my partner likes it. And then they just like, they don't know how to, there's no off ramp. They just don't know what to do after. They're just like, I'm stuck. I'm their dom now, I guess. And like, they just don't know what to do. And that's a difficult position to be in on both sides. Like, when you're the submissive and you can pick up feelings and signs that your partner is not really into it as much as you are, that's like hurtful. As a submissive, you're like, I'm giving you this gift. This is a really important aspect of who I am, this private part of myself I don't share with other people very commonly, and it can feel like being rejected. And that's difficult. And then the other end, you're trying to make somebody else happy, but it's not really feeding you. And even being a dominant, that eventually chips away at you when you keep doing something that doesn't feed you, and it's taking stuff away, taking away mental energy from you. So yeah, definitely got to be cautious if your partner is in that spectrum of like, I'm shy, I'm not initiating scenes, because there is a potential that the reason why they're not initiating scenes is because, similarly to someone who maybe doesn't like sex that much, like they're trying to avoid the thing they don't like, and they're not initiating because they simply don't want it to happen. But again, you're not going to know until you ask, and I think most of the time it's going to be that they do want to do more, they just don't have the confidence yet, and they're trying to find their dominant voice. So also, like, kind of final note on that, also, like, try different scenes, right? Come up with, like, go through a yes, no, maybe checklist if you haven't already. Come up with lots of different ideas for scenes, try different stuff. They might be into, like, certain kinks and not others. They might be really into a DS thing. They might be really into pet play, but not ABDL. They might really be into ABDL, but not bondage. They might really be really into bondage, but not whatever. So you're not going to know until you try. Try lots of different things. Be open, and just don't make them feel like they're a failure if they're not into it. Be open, be kind, but also like be realistic at the same time. Oh, thank you for the super chat again. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so what time is it? Okay, it's 7:30-ish. We definitely have time for more questions. Banditi has no time for questions because she's a sleepy girl. You sleepy? What? That's not allowed. So sleepy, not even wagging tail. Too sleepy at that point. Okay. Oh, so many good questions today. I love it. Oh, shoot. Okay. I just lost where I was in the chat. Give me a minute here. I am trying to find stuff. I definitely know that I missed some questions. I'm super sorry about that. I was literally looking at one and it disappeared. So if I don't get to yours, it's not because I think that your question is bad or wrong. I just haven't gotten to it yet, okay? Do you think a fake dom can become a real dom? If so, how? It depends on why they're a fake dom. So, I think if you are somebody that is pretending to be into BDSM when you know you're not into BDSM because you're trying to get sexy pictures, sexy text messages, full-on actual sex from somebody else because you think that kinky chicks are freaky or sluts or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't really think there's a pathway for you to be a real dom because you know what kink is and you know you're not that, but you're choosing to not actually be a real dom because it's not your thing and you're only using it as a tool for deceiving people. And I think unless you do some very intense therapy to deal with your lying and deception problems, probably not a path to make that happen. If you're a fake dom where you act like just you have no idea what a real dominant is, but you think being a real dominant is like messaging random people and then being like, bow down to me, slave. Like, yeah, if you're doing it because you think that's how you get chicks or whatever, like you could probably learn like, okay, no, you don't just like start throwing honorifics at people. You don't send people random messages like out of the blue with demanding power exchange. Like, yeah, there's a way to maybe make that work a little bit better where you are like, you know, oh, okay, I was trying. Like, I think the only real way for a fake dom to become a real dom is when the fakeness is at the intersection of genuinely wants to do the thing but has no idea how, and like you want to do it, you wish you could be a real dom, but you're not doing it because you don't have the information yet, you don't have representation, you think you know what it is, but your source is bad. That definitely happens. But also it depends on what your definition of fake is, because I don't consider people that are like there's like my bar for like what counts as like a fake dom is like pretty high. Like you have to be somebody who is like a catfish, like trying to be deceptive. You are you know you're not into it. You don't know what a dom even is, but you're going along with it. Like you have people where like maybe you match with somebody on a dating app, they're super hot, and they go like, oh, are you into BDSM at all? And you go like, yeah, sure. But you don't actually, like, you're like, I don't even know anything about BDSM. Where is this going? And they say, well, I'm a submissive and I'm looking for a DS relationship. Are you a dom? And then you go, yeah, I'm a dom. And then you just like repeat whatever they say back to you. Like if you're just playing along with somebody else's suggestion of like trying BDSM and you're thinking, well, I can't say that I'm not experienced because then they're not going to want to be with me. Like you can kind of accidentally stumble into, as much as you can, like, you know, it's not much to say this person's completely innocent, but like you can definitely like fake being a dom and then discover somehow through that, if you were completely ignorant of what kink was in the first place, go, oh, I do actually like this. But I find oftentimes people that start there, they don't actually end up being doms. They end up being like switches, or they have a fetish, or like they have some kind of niche kink thing they're into. Like it's pretty rare that they like end up being in power exchange in the way that like they traditionally thought that they would be into. Yes, I spoke about collar blindness already. I have a video coming out about it really soon, so don't worry if you missed that part. A full explanation will be coming to you very shortly. Okay, I answered the question about public play. I got to that one. Yeah, I love having a dress code. He can veto any outfit of mine if he doesn't like it. And we have a baseline dress code rule, like no sweat clothes and no pants. Yeah, exactly. Like just having like a super basic baseline. A lot of people find that very useful. Even if it's not like only wearing the color pink or no pants. Like you can come up with something that works for you individually. Yeah, exactly. This goes into the idea. Basically, collars mean more things than ever. People can be too focused on the collar as a symbol versus just as a part of a person that's wearing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's kind of a long one, but I love it. Okay, really quickly, I will answer this one because this. Has anyone ever been on psychedelics whilst in a scene? Perhaps a primal one? Definitely you will find people that do various substances or are under the influence while they do scenes. I know someone, I don't know if they would call what they do BDSM scenes, but they definitely are more like on the rough primal side of the spectrum, and sometimes they do engage in play while on psychedelics, and it's a thing, but it's something that is known about negotiating the relationship, something where there's like they've been in that relationship for a long time. So I can't speak on like how to get started. And also it's like, don't go, please. I haven't said this yet, and I feel like I maybe should. I don't know what the laws are elsewhere, but if you're in America, probably in Canada as well, please don't go to a dungeon intoxicated or high or planning to go to the bathroom and take something when you're there. Like, just, that's like a liability problem for the dungeon. It's a liability problem for everyone else doing scenes there. Like, just like do it privately, do it at home, do it in your own space. Just do it in a controlled, known environment, not with like other random strangers being around. Like, I just feel like that's obviously a bad plan. So do it privately, do it at home. I can't speak to like, cause I don't do stuff like this. Like my brain's enough on its own. I don't really need chemical assistance for the most part. I can't say how that experience is different, but it is a thing that it is like occasionally sometimes done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, need a high level of intimacy and trust to involve intoxicants. Yeah, like this is definitely not a like you meet somebody on Craigslist and then you like get high together, like, and then you do BDSM. Like, this is like the way that I know it works for other people is you build that trust first, you establish some kind of relationship first, and then you slowly work that in, and then it works great. Like I've had, anyway, you know what? I'm not even gonna get it. YouTube doesn't need to know about that. We're just gonna stop that story there before it starts. It is possible to enjoy such things whilst under the influence. I will say though, usually if you like BDSM, you like it enough on its own to not need other substances to like it. Like whatever thing you're doing, you know, commonly I think a lot of people like weed. Honestly, like edibles sometimes, especially if you're having more of like a sensory sensation play scene, and like that can feel good for some people, or even just like for aftercare, like that can be used for aftercare too sometimes. I think most things actually take away from the kink experience more so than add to it. I don't know about rough body play or wrestling or like primal play in particular, but I think most kinks are best experienced just like your own brain, straight, sober, the way that it is, not mixing anything else into it. I think that especially like alcohol or depressants seem to really take away from the kink experience. I think most other things also take away from the kink experience because it ends up like just like distraction ends up being a big problem. Getting like I just feel like it's not something that generally is enhanced by other things being involved, but some people do it. Okay, so getting back actually to Kusebia. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Hopefully you'll recognize your own question though. Then you'll know I'm answering it. How would you remake the foundation in an already established relationship / dynamic? Like you learned more and want to apply it, but you seem pretty set in your guys' ways. You want to strengthen the foundation. So I feel like this suggestion is like potentially controversial, but I genuinely think that this works. If the relationship is meant to be, it can withstand being rebuilt in the first place. So, oh, we have 100 likes in the stream. Thank you. We love it. Thank you. Round of applause for the chat. Thank you so much for all of your likes. We can always use more if you want to get up to like higher than 100, but thank you so much for liking the stream if you're being here. Yes, the floofy mop requires a toll of 10 likes. Look at that big stretch you did just for you guys. I know. Are you big floofy lady? Are you big floofy lady? Yes, big floofy floof. Big floofy doofly. Oh, floofy doofly. What are we doing? I know we're waiting for me to be done working, huh? Waiting for work to be over. All right. There is the gift of the floof just for y'all. So I think that you probably already know what to do for this, but I will give you permission that this is an okay idea to do. So if you would like to incorporate new things and you want to apply new things in your relationship and you seem pretty set in your ways, kind of just blow everything up. Like, just go, all right, we're starting from scratch. We're going to get a big do-over. And I think people are sometimes so married to this idea of, we have to keep going with this one contract, this one way of doing things. You know, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And like, you're not going to do that. Because the thing that you want to preserve, I imagine, is probably just like having any kind of relationship at all. And sometimes you can get the most perspective and like get the most positive change when you are willing to start totally from scratch and then like build up again from there. Especially if you've been learning a lot, like fucking sometimes like I start writing a video script and I go, I don't like this at all. And then I just throw it away and I restart it. Similar idea, and I completely go at it from a different angle. And in the same way, I think you can like look at a relationship or look at a dynamic and go, okay, so we've got this relationship structure, we've got these and these rules, this protocol, none of it is working. It's boring, it's tired, it's too much work, it doesn't feed us, we don't like it. And I think if you've got one or two things you want to change, then yeah, it's like, don't go too crazy just getting rid of things arbitrarily. But if you like the core of the relationship isn't working, you want to try new things, the only way you're going to really, I think, have that flexibility fully back is if you just like commit to like, okay, we're just completely starting from scratch. And I think what prevents people from doing this is they're worried about what that's going to mean for the relationship if there is no structure there. Like as though somehow you couldn't possibly have a relationship with this person anymore if you don't have like the same exact structure and foundation that you did originally. And that's usually not true. Sometimes people are just like, they're in the relationship to get the structure and not really like for the person, and then like that's not very good. That doesn't feel very nice. But then they never really saw you as a whole person anyways, and so like, does it matter if it's working, if that's what you're doing, and you just have to keep going and you can never change anything, because if you change anything then it doesn't work anymore? I don't think that's probably, I don't think that's good. So start from scratch. Start just like building things really slowly. I think what helps not being set in your ways is to build up the relationship again slowly. Like if you just like start with a contract, you've got 10 rules, you've got all these protocol, like it's very easy to be like, okay, this is the way, like capital T, capital W, like you're just stuck there. And if you were able to just build things very slowly, check in every single time you try a new rule, and that's the operative thing, right? You're just trying. You're just seeing if stuff works or if it doesn't. This is not a commitment. It's not forever. It's not permanent. We're just seeing, okay, for right now, does this work? And then after you've seen it work for a long enough time, then you can go through and say, okay, we want to formalize this. We want to make this like a commitment for the next year, or however you want to set up your contract terms. But don't start there. Start just, everything's flexible. Everything's like, don't make things difficult to let go of. You want to hold everything securely but softly. You want to have room to be like, oh, I want to set this down and pick this up. I want to pick up 2 more of these. I want to jumble these all together. And if you're just like holding on super tight, you don't have very much room for a lot else, because you're holding on so tightly to like a couple of ideas. And if you're open and you're soft and you're able to be flexible, it's going to work a lot better. But that requires both partners being open to that being the way that things go. And there are certainly, especially dominant partners, where they do not want radical change. They do not want to get rid of the relationship structure, mostly because it tends to work out more for them than for the bottom if things are going poorly. So they're like, why would I get rid of the rule that says that you have to suck my cock 7 times a week? Like, yeah, they're probably not going to want to blow that rule up, are they? But like, you can make provisions for certain things that are like really important, that you know work, that like, okay, everything else sucks, but we like this one idea, right? Like, you can preserve the thing. Like, you ever watch like the home renovation shows on like HGTV or whatever, like sometimes there's a really good part of the house that they want to keep, right? There's like a sunroom, a brick wall, a hot tub, something they build the rest of the design around to make that original thing they want to keep even better. So keep the highlights, don't keep what's not working. Yeah, you can't build a plane as you're flying it. Yeah. Exactly. Like, you gotta, like, if you want to make radical change, you can't, like, do it when you're in the middle of it. You gotta set it down, and, like, you can, I know it's scary, especially if you've been in one, like, a relationship for a long time with power exchange. Like, what do I do? What's my life gonna look like? Like, you can miss the structure. And I think if that's the position you're in, you have to do a little bit of legwork ahead of time to prepare yourself to internally have that structure, whereas before you were getting it externally, right? Like, before, I would wake up when my master would text me. Okay, well, now you got to set your own alarm. Okay, I would eat with my master's permission. Okay, well, you're not doing that anymore, so now you got to do this instead. Like, you got to build in ways to be able to ease off of whatever your current structure is. If you have a lot of, like, rules, behavior modification, daily expectations, things that have really become like second nature habits that does take time to walk away from, and there should be grace for that. Like, if it's something like you have to ask permission before you eat chocolate and now suddenly you don't anymore. Like, yeah, you might have a hesitation when you're out with friends still, being like, oh wait, I normally would need to text about this first, but I don't have to now. So, like, you know, you gotta have kindness for yourself and be open. Okay, probably have time in here for one or two more questions. Do you have any experience with ASD in a power exchange relationship? Not personally. I have a lot of experience with ADHD and like other forms of neurospiciness and neurodivergence, but not specifically ASD and power exchange. Not me personally, but other people in the chat might. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Thank you. I appreciate that. A sparkling diamonds. Oh, so cute. Thank you. Some people have asked for my picture on FetLife, but I refused. This one person said I'm too distrustful and that I could be a catfish. Am I being too distrustful? I kind of feel like it's nobody's business. Like, my instinct is like, okay, it's one thing if you're like, you want to be in a power exchange relationship and you want to date this person. Okay, yeah, sure. Like, maybe you want to know this person's like for real. But like, if you're still on FetLife anyways, like, are you to that stage yet to begin with? Probably not. I feel like random people you're just like talking to on FetLife, like, they need to just like trust you or get over it. Like, because at some point, like, I mean, it's not likely they're blackmailing you, but like, it's just, if you don't want your face to be on your kink websites or your social media, like, why would you send it over a private DM? Because that's like not a guarantee that they're not gonna like use it against you or try to figure out like where you work or what school you go to or something. So I definitely would be cautious about that. But, you know, exception for like, okay, you're talking, you want a power exchange relationship. Yeah, they probably are going to want some proof that you are a real person and not just a bot. But honestly, like, compared to dating apps, I don't really hear too many problems about like catfishing and bots on FetLife. I'm sure it happens, but I just don't think the website is as easy for that kind of thing to use. But I don't know. I don't think it's very common. I think that if anything, they're being too distrustful. Like, I mean, I guess you could, so like, if you really wanted to, if this was like you're trying to establish a relationship with this person, like, you could like send a photo that you've edited with like, maybe like, I know what some people will do, like, especially on dating apps, is they'll tell the person to make like a certain pose, like touching a pinky to their nose, or I don't know, something like holding up, like, not a newspaper, because that, you know, does anyone even have newspapers anymore? I don't think so. Like, have some kind of like particular like physical thing that they want you to do for the photo, and then just like crop out your eyes, crop out your whole face. Like you can like show your body to prove that you're like a real person without it having to be like whatever. Or even just like holding up like blurring out your whole body, or like blacking your face and your body, but then like holding up a piece of paper that's handwritten that says like what your username on FetLife is, but also is like still keeping your identity private. But even then, like if it's just somebody you're talking to for fun or like as a friend, like I shouldn't care that much. It was one of my first messages. I have my pictures on the internet because I'm an author and I have a page so I can be found. I don't want a random person to find me. Yeah, sure. I mean, in that case, like, you know, if it's like a first, like, if you've been talking for a while and it's to the point where like you want to meet up in person or date, like, sure, yeah, then you can like take that risk if you want to. But if it's somebody who's just like 2 messages in, they're like, are you real, prove it with the photo, like I would be suspicious of that. I wouldn't, like, I'm like, no, who are you? Because like, who is this person, right? Who is this person sending messages to you? Like you know, if they're like a big educator and they're well known or something, okay, so fucking maybe if they're like a public figure, but most people are not that. And like, it's sort of like, okay, well, how do you, like, there's not that mutual vulnerability or that trust there. Oh, the Thrive 2024 has been scheduled. Okay, awesome. Okay, okay, I think we have time for one more question here. I'm trying to like stay focused and not get distracted because I know we don't always have time to get to a lot of questions. Okay, I think we're on the talking about shutting down thing. If I have not sent you a friend request on FetLife yet and you're on Patreon, like please email me like now or like sometime after this stream and I will definitely add you on there. Pleasin' ants? Who's that? I don't see that question. I don't know. Anyways, if I see it, I will answer it, but I don't see it. I'm sorry. 'Cause I can't like Oh, the thing is they have their actual face in their profile picture. That's crazy to me. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. I mean, yeah, I know, like, I don't do that either, but it's because I don't want everyone on the whole planet to know that's, like, the Evie Lupine FetLife page, you know? So, like, I get it. Oh, here we go. Thank you. What's your opinions on sissy slaves forced by sissy diaper humiliation? Do you think any of these dynamics are appealing to couples or anything along those lines that couples would be open to? I think they're all really popular kinks. Like for male submissives, I wouldn't say that they're. I do have a video I have a video that's Carly DeVille. I have an interview with Carly DeVille where we talked about some of this, not all of it. I don't think did we talk about forced bi at all? Maybe we did. Like a bunch of that stuff we talked about in an interview I did. You can watch it on my channel. Just search either through the internet, or not the internet, the interview playlist, and look for Carly DeVille. It should be on there. I don't know. I guess I don't know what to say other than like, yeah, it's popular, like in a general way, like for like dominatrix sessions or in media, but it's not something I really see that commonly in the lifestyle scene or at dungeons. Like, especially if you want to play with a couple, it's like unicorn trying to, like, well, I guess if you're trying to be the unicorn, maybe unicorn hunting's a little bit easier than it would be if you're a couple trying to find the third. I think it's a kink that people do not always openly express a desire for, because like, at least like in America, like where I've lived at, like if you're a cishet man and you want to be in a straight relationship with a woman, trying to find a straight female dominant, or at least like a bisexual female dominant that like plays sexually with men, and then also was comfortable with those things, because a lot of people, especially pro-doms even, like they don't feel comfortable with like sissy stuff or forced bi, because it feels like either homophobic or misogynist, and so they don't play with that. So like it's kind of a tall order to find people, but they definitely do. Oh, thank you. I am glad that y'all appreciated the stream. Oh, thank you so much. Just a little thanks from Mr. and myself. Your channels help us so much. You are so welcome, Lexi. Thank you so much for being here. And on that note, we are now at the 8 o'clock hour, which means it's time for me to get working on some other stuff with my day. I got a video to edit. I've got so many freaking emails to answer, my lord. And I've got a tiny little dog to say hello to. Hi, Puppy Weenie. Hello, Papa Weenie. Hello. Oh, he's so cute. Come here. Hi, sweetie. Hi. What do you mean? Did we have a nice little nap? Hi. Good girl. Oh, we found over. We found over. Hello. Come here. We gotta say goodnight. She says, thank you very much for coming to visit the stream. Thank you so much. We had fun. Yes, we did. She says to stay hydrated. Okay, do you have a message? Want to tell people to stay hydrated? We're going to stay hydrated. And we're going to have a good night's sleep. And we're going to have a little snack. And we're just going to have fun. We're going to have fun and we're going to stay safe. As we always do. All right, stay safe, you guys. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your Friday evening with me. I will hopefully see you all again soon. Lots of fun stuff coming up. Thank you so much for being here. And so sorry I couldn't get to everyone's questions. I know there were a lot of questions today, lots of good conversations. We do these every Friday, so if you're new here, please subscribe, come back. We do these every Friday at 6 o'clock. And just get here early if you want to make sure to answer or have a question answered. Coming in early using a super chat is the best way to do it. And hopefully I will see you all again in future live streams. And I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.